Next, truth or fake? Truth or fake gives us Kathleen Marchand-Debreu over by the big board. Good evening to you. Many claim that the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky imprisons his political opponents. Tell us more about this.
That is what several users and influential personalities have been claiming on social media for several days now. These claims mostly cite statements attributed by Tulsi Gabbard, who has recently been designated by Donald Trump as the future head of U.S. intelligence, also known for her pro-Russian stance. Here posted by François Asselineau, former right or more like far-right presidential candidate here in France, also in English, where we saw users denounce President Zelensky for imprisoning his political opponents and banning their entire political party. So they had this clip that we will take a look at where Tulsi Gabbard was interviewed by this conservative political show, The Rubin Report, where they add what she says here in minute 149, where they claim we can hear her speak, but we summarize the important statements. She says that President Zelensky, besides imprisoning his political opponents, also has shut down all media outlets not controlled by him or his government, has suppressed hence freedom of speech and deleted any type of political opposition. Religious freedom has also been suppressed as he closed the largest Christian church in the country under the pretense, they say, of democracy and freedom. In other words, calling President Zelensky a dictator and his government authoritarian.
So let's remind everybody, Kathleen, this is Tulsi Gabbard. She's the new U.S. National Intelligence Chief, selected by Donald Trump for that really important job. And she's making what sound like some wild and unfounded accusations. What do we know about her claims, Catalina?
As you well said, these claims are actually misleading. We'll explain why, Mark. Even though this clip is authentic, you can find the original version on her YouTube page, Tulsi Gabbard's YouTube channel. It's not a recent interview. It's actually from 2023 called Tulsi Gabbard on the Truth of President Zelensky. So what do we know about these claims that President Zelensky imprisons his opponents as claimed here by Tulsi Gabbard? In fact, she bases these claims off what happened in the start of the Russian offensive in February 2022, when there was in fact a repressive movement against political actors who were considered or suspected of collaborating with Russia. So on March 20th, Zelensky banned 11 political parties in total during martial law, accusing them of being too close to Russia. 3 of these 11 parties actually enjoyed a considerable support from the population in Ukraine. In total, they won 18% of the vote in the country's last parliamentary elections that took place in 2019, one of which is considered one of the largest opposition party in Ukraine, called Opposition Platform for Life, who came in second in this parliamentary election in 2019. So there was one political arrest of a political opponent, which made many headlines. That of Ukrainian oligarch close to Vladimir Putin, Viktor Medvedchuk, who led the opposition party, a Platform for Life. He currently found refuge in Russia after leaving Ukraine, where he is facing treason charges. However, there are no other examples of high-profile trials against political opponents, except for the wave of corruption arrests during this anti-corruption campaign that was launched in January 2023 by the Ukrainian government.
So Tulsi Gabbard, the next national intelligence chief of the US, is essentially peddling a Russian narrative, which seems quite disturbing. What is the place of the opposition nowadays in Ukraine? Because since the war broke out, of course, there's been a kind of unity. I've spoken with opposition politicians who've said that, there's no challenging what goes on because we're all fighting for the same thing.
Exactly. So a political opposition does still exist in Ukraine. The biggest example is former President Petro Poroshenko, his main opponent of Zelensky during the previous 2019 presidential elections, who currently leads the European Solidarity Party and has remained a fierce rival of President Zelensky. Poroshenko was actually critical of Zelensky when last February he complained in this published letter to the European Commission about not receiving the necessary authorization to leave Ukrainian territory, describing it as an abuse of martial law with the aim, he says, of isolating the Ukrainian opposition from the international scene. So President Zelensky also received the same type of criticism from other Ukrainian politicians and opposition who accuse Zelensky of blocking international travel of lawmakers, and I quote, because of their vote on certain bills that are close to the president. Here in this open letter to the Kyiv Independent from March 6th. Hence, it is actually misleading to say that Zelensky is muzzling the opposition. However, in recent months, there has been criticism that has arisen in the country about this lack of international visibility of opposition voices in Ukraine. Mark.
It would be fascinating to speak to Tulsi Gabbard about what she said and see whether she actually still believes that. Catalina, thank you for sorting out the truth from the very clearly, obviously fake. And we continue to obviously explore all matters as they emerge regarding the conflict in Ukraine and, of course, from the US political scene. Catalina, thank you very much indeed.